right, welcome everybody from the Sourcepass community. Great to see another terrific turnout today for our Learning Series webinar. I am here with Jolynn Reen, who is probably about to pop up on the screen at some point here.
Hi,
Oh, there she is. Hey, Jolynn, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great too. We're getting a little
Good.
snow here in the Northeast. I know you're in the Midwest getting a little snow. So, hey,
Yes,
it's holiday time of year, right?
'tis that season.
hmm Also, the season to learn about 365, right? It's always a season to learn about 365.
Absolutely.
I love sessions like this that sort of tie things together. I think a lot of people get in the mindset where, the 365 applications are kind of islands and there's Teams over here and Outlook over here and SharePoint, OneDrive. And really it's an ecosystem. And sometimes it's just easy to lose that, or to not
It
really
is.
quite understand how they all connect together. So I love sessions
Right.
like this that help people understand that. So really looking forward to this session today.
Right. And these applications that we're going to talk about today really do all work together. And we're definitely going to be taking a look at how easy we can get from one place to another to see whatever it is we need to see or find. Absolutely.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. So, for those of you who have joined us before, you know that Jolynn is our master Microsoft instructor. She's going to be doing the heavy lifting today. I will fade off into the sunset here in just a second, help moderate some questions. If you do have questions, please use the Q&A button. I think we've answered every question that everybody's thrown at us here over a bunch of these webinars. So I promise we will get to all of these questions. Generally, we'll answer them to the group. If it's a very specific question, we may just answer that individually. If we don't have an answer for you during this session, we will certainly get your information and get back to you. So if you have not been to one of these before, these are our Learning Series webinars. We have two different series, and the Learning Series is really designed to help you get more out of the tools that you probably already have. There's a lot of 365 content, as you may have experienced. It's open to anybody who is a SourcePass client. I would also extend that to your friends. Your friends are our friends, is what I like to say. So if you know somebody who's maybe not a SourcePass client, you feel like they'd benefit, just tell them Al sent you and they can sign up, go to our website just like you do, and we'd be happy to have them here. So the other series that we have is the digital transformation series of webinars. Those are really focused more on new technologies, maybe new ways of thinking about technology and using it. AI, there's been a lot of AI topics of late. So things like that are maybe up and coming. So yeah, at the end, I think we've got one or two upcoming webinars that we're going to share with you at the end of the session, or maybe right now. So this is our next session, January 15th. This is a learning session. Oh, and this is Power BI. So yeah, this Power BI is it's powerful. It's aptly named. So it is a way to look at data, a way to manage data. It can do a lot of things. And if databases and data analytics are your thing, you may want to check this one out for sure. I know that we've got some planning coming up in the near future to plot out some additional sessions, but right now we just have this one on our agenda. All right, so without further ado, Jolynn, I'm going to kick it over to you.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Alan. So welcome everybody to our session today. Really kind of talking about optimizing where your files are stored at. So really kind of this file management topic. So I'm actually going to be starting in my online account. So there is a handout available for you as well. Kat was going to make that available to everybody. So if you want to open up that and use that to follow along, that would be great. Otherwise, it's a good tool for you to kind of see afterwards as well. But when it comes to utilizing your Microsoft 365, like Alan and I were just kind of chatting about, these work together. Now, what are these that I'm referring to? SharePoint, OneDrive, Microsoft Teams. They really now are fully integrated to be able to work with your files from any location. I'm also going to throw in a little bit on the file management side of using File Explorer when we talk about using Windows applications. But when it comes to kind of understanding where your files are, you want to make a decision. So if you're going to create a new file, you want to know who's going to need access to this. Is this something that is just going to be for yourself? Or is this going to be a file that you're going to want to have available to other people within your organization or even outside your organization? That's going to help you to know where should it be saved. So those kind of questions will be answered as we take a look at the different apps. So we're going to basically be focusing on 3 different apps today, starting with SharePoint. So when it comes to using SharePoint, SharePoint is a basically, and let me kind of open a site and kind of walk you through what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to open up a SharePoint site that I have here called Clinic. This happens to be a Microsoft SharePoint Teams site, so the navigation is located on the left-hand side. All SharePoint sites have a document library. So when we talk about SharePoint, the name Share lets you know that this is a place that we can go to share and collaborate with our coworkers. So when I come into this site, I can have shared calendars, I can have shared documents, shared lists, I can have shared planners, I can have anything that I need to share with my coworkers. The big thing about our file management is document libraries, is what SharePoint actually calls them. You don't have to call them that, but that's their technical name coming from Microsoft. And the best thing about that is it's part of SharePoint. Therefore, we get the power of SharePoint behind it. So when we talk about creating a SharePoint site, every site has at least one document library. By default, it has one. We can always add additional SharePoint sites as needed, depending on how our files need to be organized. We're going to see a little bit of that here today. And there can be different permission levels behind the SharePoint document libraries. So if I come into this clinic site, and I have a document library that I want everybody that's a part of this department to have access to, I could have it just on the navigation pane called Documents. I could go into that document library called Documents or whatever we want to name it. Doesn't have to be called Documents, that's just the generic name. But it will hold the folders and the files of what we want everybody to have access to. But I could have another document library within the same SharePoint site that is only available to specific users. So on the left-hand side, I have another document library called Legal Docs, well, Legal Documents. When I come into this SharePoint document library, not everybody that has rights to this SharePoint site can access this document library. And that's where the power of SharePoint as an application comes into play with our document management. So we always want to think about, who do we want to have access to our files? Are they just for me, or who do I need to share them with? And that's something that I personally think about as soon as I go to create a file. Now, I will talk about just going to an app and using our document libraries as well, because I don't always go directly to SharePoint to create or open a file that is saved in SharePoint. But I'll get to that here in just a minute. I want to first kind of go over what are the benefits of a SharePoint document library. Because it has that power of SharePoint behind it, I kind of think of it as having the most capability. It has the most features, it has the most security. So SharePoint document libraries, where we want to share the information with other people, is highly recommended. But the next step down is actually to save files within Microsoft Teams, which is a SharePoint document library. Other option would be OneDrive. So before we're done with our session here today, we'll talk about all 3 of those. But starting here in a document library, this, as I said, is a document library that I have in this clinic site that has special permissions to it. Only certain people within the site can have access to this document library. The other people don't even see it. How do I work with it? What am I going to do with it? Well, as you can see, there's a menu going across the top. The menu will change. So the tools on that menu going across the top will change if you select a file. Right now, the menu is related to the entire document library, where you can see at the top left it has new. We don't have to go to Excel to create a new workbook. If I was already here in this document library and I needed a new workbook, I could do it right from here. By default, it will save the file directly in this document library. Of course, it could be moved if I needed it to go someplace else, but that's what it's going to do by default. But from my drop-down list, you can see I could create PowerPoint presentations, all kinds of different types of files. So that would be one way that a file can get to this document library, is to create it right from here. But what if I created a file over the weekend and I was just using my C drive? I wasn't connected to the internet or anything. I was just using my C drive. Or I still have a file out on my network drive or something like that. And I want to bring it into the SharePoint Cloud document library. I could just click upload. When you click upload, you can then choose if you want an entire folder or just individual files to bring in. I'm going to say I want a file. It will allow me to navigate the hierarchy of my computer, whether I'm getting something off a flash drive or wherever, and I can add a file in. So let's say that I have a file that is out here in this folder called Project Management, and it's in my risk management, and I want to bring in this completed risk registry. I'm going to click open once I find the file that I want to put in this SharePoint document library, and it's going to make a copy of it. That's a key thing to understand, is when you upload something, it still resides in its original location. So you have to make a determination. Do you want to keep it in that original location where we can have some confusion on which ones I'm supposed to be using? For me, I usually need to go back to the original location and delete that file and use this file that's here in this document library as the main file. So once it comes in, it comes to the top of the list, but eventually it's going to alphabetize it with the rest of my files. So basically, it doesn't have a lot of information to it yet, but once you have a file in a cloud, whether it's SharePoint or OneDrive, once it's in a cloud location, and basically cloud means it's available through the internet, when you have them here, other things are available to these files. So let me go to an existing file. I'm going to go to this one called HR Policies, and I want to manage that file. One thing I can do with it is click on the name of it to actually open it. By default, it's going to open in the online version of this application. So it automatically has opened up that file. I can make any changes that I need to make to it. Maybe I need to update this to be 2025 because that's right around the corner. So whatever changes I need to make, it's opened as a new tab at the top. When I'm done, I can just simply close it because it doesn't auto-save. But the other thing that I want to mention about this is we have other features by right-clicking or going to the ... menu. A lot of times for me, I right-click, but if I right-click on the name of this file, I'm going to get a menu of different choices of what it is that I can do to help manage this file. You're going to see that I have different ways that I can open it. Do I want to open it in the desktop app instead of going online? Because I want to do macros or different things that I can't do in the online version. I can preview the file. I could share the file, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I could copy a link to it to share it with somebody else. I could delete the file. So if I wanted to get rid of the file, I could simply delete it. I'll come back to the automate, but I can rename it. I could move it to a different location or make a copy of it to a different location. But one thing about all of these apps, SharePoint, using files in Teams, or in OneDrive, we have a feature called version history. Version history, once you click on it, It keeps track of version history once the file is in the cloud. So whether it's OneDrive, SharePoint, once it's in the cloud, it keeps track of every time that document has been changed. We can always go back to a previous version of that file. So you can see I just changed this file. You could see all of the different, all the way down to June of 2023 when this file was first created. If I wanted to go back to a previous version, all I have to do is click on the date for that version. It's going to automatically open that file. So once that file opens, it's going to have a, sorry, let me click on that again. I was opening it and then I clicked on it again and it got confused on what it was that I was doing. But let me slide that over here to this screen so you can see this file, because it opened it in my desktop app on my other screen. Sorry about that. But what it's going to do automatically when you open up a previous version is on the right underneath your ribbon, you're going to find previous version. To make this previous version become the latest version, we can click restore. It's still going to have the last changes that I made, but it will restore this to become the newest version. So if I wanted to do that, I could. Otherwise, sometimes I just want to maybe copy some information from here and put it in the other file. Whatever your choice is, you can do that with any file that is cloud-based. So this version history can be a great tool to be able to use. I remember having to bribe the IT department to go to the backup and get my file for me. But now we have our own version history that we can manage ourselves. But back to doing a right click on this file to manage this file again, I'm going to actually come down to the category from the menu called More. When I hesitate on More, I also have the ability of doing a checkout. So if nobody else is in the file right at this moment, I could simply click checkout. What this is going to allow me to do is check the file out, because maybe I need it open exclusively because I need to unhide a worksheet, make some changes to a formula or something, and I don't want other people to be in there while I do that. I just checked this file out. And now there's a red circle next to the name of it, and I happen to be hesitating on it right now. But if I open this file, make my necessary changes, I then can go back and check it back in. So I could go to sheet 2. Maybe I want to make some updates to this, and I'm going to say that this is going to be for 2025 projects. And I need to put in 2025 dates. For some reason, it has 20 too many letters or numbers in there. So just so you could see, I've got the capability of coming in here and making those adjustments. So I came in, I made the changes that I need to make. Now I'm going to go ahead and close it again. When I'm done, I need to remember to go back and check the file back in so that other people will be able to use that file. All I have to do is hesitate on the name of the file. Right on the right hand on that pop-up window, I can click check in. So hesitate on the file, go to check in, and what it's going to do is bring you to a window where you can enter in comments about the changes that you had made. So I updated for 2025. I'm going to click check in. Now that file is available for everybody else to open, because when it is checked out, they can't open it and make changes to it. They would only be able to open it as a read-only. So now everybody has access to the file again. But just so you know, it updated the history. So that version history, if I go back in, it's going to show me that latest update that I just did. And in the column across for the comments, you can see the comments that I had that I just entered in. So it always shows you all changes, even if the changes were done when the file was checked out. But a couple of other things that I want to mention. I'm going to right click again on the name of that file because there is a feature called Alert Me that I want you to be aware of. This is a built-in workflow that is a part of SharePoint that allows us to take an entire document library or just a file, and we can set up an alert. So alert me for the entire document library is in the menu across the top. But if I just want to set up an alert for a file, I can come here to this alert me. But if I want the whole document library, I'm going to come to the top, go to my menu, and click alert me. What this does, whether it's for the entire document library or a single file, what it will do is send you an email when changes happen, either within the entire document library or with that file. For me, what if I'm responsible for this document library and I need to know if somebody deletes a file, adds a new file in, makes changes to a file, whatever the case would be, this is where I'm going to come and set that up. So I can see that I have this send me an alert via email, only send me alerts when, and I could keep it on all changes happen. Otherwise, I could say new items are added, that kind of a thing. Send me alert when someone else changes a document, etc. And then how often do you want to get the alert? And where does the alert go? Well, I'm going to say I want to send the alert immediately. I'm going to click OK. And what's going to happen is if anything happens in this document library, I will receive an email notification. So it's using Outlook to send me a notification letting me know about the changes that had happened. And it will give me a link to even get into that document library, just so you're aware. Great feature. So it can be set up for a single file or it can be set up for the entire document library. Very unique feature. We technically don't have that available like this through OneDrive, only with SharePoint Document Libraries. Also, if I go to a file and right click, the other thing that I wanted to mention that is also a built-in workflow is under this automate category. When I go to automate, I'm going to click request sign off. What this is going to take me into is a built-in workflow coming from Power Automate. And on the right-hand side, it will have me put in the name or names of the people that I want to send this file to. So basically, I can have a file be sent to someone, ask them to review the file, and then approve it or reject it. And they will have the ability to put in comments when they respond back. It's going to be using Excel because this is an Excel file. It's also going to use Outlook. It's going to use Microsoft Teams, and it uses the Power app, I should say the Power Automate feature app called Notifications. We have this approval process that it goes through, so I'll show you that a little bit in Teams as well. But I'm going to say that I want Jolene to approve this. So I'm just sending it to myself. And then I'm going to put a note in because that's the note that will go with the notification that they get. So I would say something like, please review this file. And I would put in the details I want them to see. Down at the bottom, I'm going to click Run Flow. This is called an instant flow. So when we talk about Power Automate, this is a flow that automatically ran. So it immediately sends things out. So what is it doing? Let me go to Microsoft Teams. So if I go into my Microsoft Teams app, let me get to my app window here. When I go to Microsoft Teams, sorry, I opened the wrong one on the other screen here. Let me get back to that. Here we go. So here in Microsoft Teams, I have a notification that came to my activity. When I go to the activity, I can see that I have this request that came to me. So here's the approval app being utilized directly through Teams, and it says, please approve the HR policies. And then here's my message I typed in with my typo. And then here's a link to the file, and it shows me the current status. The status is also available back in the document library or through the approval app, which is part of your Power Automate. But once I review the file, I can come in and type in a comment. Sorry, this needs to be updated whatever I need to type in, then I'm going to click approve or reject. So let's say I rejected this. I'm going to click the reject. I also have an email in my Outlook giving me the same information. So I could have done that through Outlook as well, just so you're aware. But here's my approvals app directly being opened and used in Microsoft Teams. I can see that this was rejected. I've got the dates, I've got who it was sent by, who it was sent to. You can see that most of these are myself because I use them during training, but you can see all of this history of these apps. I can access this through Power Automate as well. But I love this feature. This to me has saved me so much time and headaches that I absolutely love it. So anyway, back to SharePoint Document Libraries. The big thing to kind of be thinking about is I'm going to put a file in this clinic SharePoint Document Library if I want everybody that is a owner, member, or guest of the SharePoint site, I want them to have access to it. I could go directly to my documents document library where everybody can have access to it. Or if it needs to be in my legal documents, I could go directly there and have that file be available. So some great options that we have. So you want to kind of think about what's going to be the best choice for that file. If you have more than one person in a file at the same time, we call that live collaboration, where we can have multiple people working on a file at once. That's why a lot of times I want it in SharePoint. I want it to be in SharePoint so that multiple people can use it at once. The only difference is when you open the file, you'll see the profile circles at the top right of the application, whatever type of app it or file it is. So you'll know they're there, and the system will let you know where within that file they are sitting right now. So if they're on a cell or if they're in a part of a page of a document, they'll give you that information. But enough right now about SharePoint document libraries. This, by the way, is not the only way that I can access a SharePoint document library. One other feature on the menu before I leave SharePoint is this icon called Add Shortcut to OneDrive. If I choose to add a shortcut to OneDrive, it gives me access to this legal documents document library in Microsoft Teams, in File Explorer, and in Microsoft OneDrive. So I don't always have to come to the SharePoint site to utilize that document library. I can do it multiple other ways. Let me show you. I'm going to go to Microsoft Teams. So back into Microsoft Teams again. Notice on the left-hand side, I have OneDrive. I'll come back and talk a little bit more about that. I want to start actually in Microsoft Teams. So I'm going to actually go to a team. Sorry, give me just a second. Waiting for my screen to come up here. Somehow I got switched back to the old version of Microsoft Teams when earlier today I had the new one. But when I come to a team, I'm in a channel. First off, I'm in a team called Accounting Department, and I have this channel called Accounts Payable. So if you're using a team within Microsoft Teams, each channel has its own document library, which is available through Teams and SharePoint, because it is a SharePoint document library. Because when a team is created, it creates a SharePoint site. So when I'm in this channel called Accounts Payable, I can go to the top right, click on the app for files, the tab for files. This is a SharePoint document library where we can have folders and we can have files that are specifically related to accounts payable. And you can see that I've got a similar menu going across the top, just like in SharePoint. So I have the new, where if I create a new file, it will automatically be saved within this SharePoint document library through this team. I also have the upload and several other commands that you saw. I didn't talk about every one of them, but these were the same commands that you're seeing, including add a shortcut to OneDrive. So even a Teams document library can be available through OneDrive or File Explorer. Also, you have the option to open this document library directly in SharePoint. So if you don't want to just use it here in Teams, you could open it in SharePoint. I'll show you that in just a second, because why would you ever want to do that? Well, first off, let's talk about how it works here in Teams. The reason I save files here is because I need everybody that is a part of this team, a part of the accounts payable, to have access to these files. I don't want to put it on my OneDrive or my C drive because they don't have access to those. It's something that I want multiple people to have access to, so I wanted it here. I want everything related to accounts payable to be in one central location, because Teams is built for collaborating. So when we come to these files, I'm going to right click again, just like I did before in SharePoint Document Library. If you right click on the name of a file, you're going to get a similar pop-up menu. It's got a couple of things that are missing, but we'll talk about those in a second. But I could open it, I could share it, I could delete it, I could add a shortcut to it so it's available in other places. I can rename it. If I go to more, I could even check this file out. So we have a lot of the same things, but what you're not going to see is the ability to do that request for sign off or set up an alert. Right now, as of today, we don't have access to those features when you are in Microsoft Teams in the document library. But if I decided, you know what, I want to set up an alert for this entire accounts payable document library, I could simply go to the menu at the top, click Open in SharePoint. And when I do that, it will take me to the SharePoint site that was created for this team. And it takes me right away to the left-hand side. It took me to the document library. So you can see at the top, well, you can see at the very top, I have the exact same menu. Well, it's a little bit different because it has go to channel. So I can toggle back and go back to the channel that this document library is a part of. But underneath that, it shows documents and accounts payable. So the accounts payable is in documents, just so you know the relationship of what that says. So this is part of the channel accounts payable. You could see exactly the same files. If I right click on a file, I will have access to all of the features SharePoint related. So although I don't have every command in Teams, I still have access to it just by opening the document library in the SharePoint site. So I have my alert me, I have my version history, I have workflow options, I have everything, because SharePoint is kind of the top level of giving us access to every way that you want to manage a file. Teams is the next level down. If we're missing a feature, we can still go to SharePoint to use it. But with OneDrive, we don't have all of these same features because we don't need an alert me. It doesn't give you a already created workflow. We could create a workflow to do the same thing with the request sign off or the alert me with the OneDrive files, but it's not there by default because we don't always use it. It's not as beneficial in OneDrive. So just so you could see, if you wanted those other features, you would have to open the document library. But anyway, and open it in SharePoint. But otherwise, back to Teams. When you're working with your files in Teams, you can still do all of those same normal things that we were talking about with SharePoint files. So right-clicking on a file is still going to give you a lot of features that you're most likely going to want to use. But if you want to change a file, you want to work in the file, or any of your coworkers that are a part of this channel, if they want to work in the file, you just click on the name of it and it's going to automatically open it. By default, it's going to open it right within Microsoft Teams using the online version of that specific application. So it really does work just like with SharePoint. except for we're missing a couple of bells and whistles. I really like it though. I use Teams all the time to work with my document libraries. But let me close this file. I'm going to go to the top right, click on the button for close, not the X, the button, and it will just close this file and bring me back to the document library. Just so you can see, I have a team called Clinic. This is that SharePoint team site that I was in a couple of minutes ago. And if I go to the vaccinations channel, on the top, I have a shortcut to get into my legal documents. So that document library that I had in SharePoint, I have a shortcut to get to it here in Teams. So this is another way that I could access that document library. I can have it be a tab in a channel of a team. I'm going to click Legal Docs, and it's going to take me directly to that document library. So I don't always have to go to SharePoint, open the site, go to the document library to work on it. If I'm in Teams, I do have another way to open it. But just so you could see another way to get to it. But back to Microsoft Teams again. Every channel that I go to in any of my teams will always have that Files tab. So always think of this as where you want files to go that will be shared by everybody that is a part of the team or a part of that channel. Because remember, in Microsoft Teams, we can have private channels that only certain members have access to, or shared channels. So if I have a private channel, like I have one called Managers here, it has a Files tab, but only the people that are part of that private channel will have access to these files. So it does have some security in Teams, but the most security is going to be directly through SharePoint. Excuse me. Sorry about that. It's the winter cold season. But anyway, Teams is very similar. But when it comes to using OneDrive, OneDrive can be accessed multiple ways, just like SharePoint and Teams files, which I'll show you a few of those here before the end of this session. But if you want to use OneDrive, one way to utilize OneDrive is to go to your Microsoft account. So I'm on the internet, I'm going to my Microsoft account, and I can use OneDrive directly through here. As soon as you come to your home page of your Microsoft account, you will actually see previous files. No matter where they're coming from, you will see a recent list. But on the left-hand side, I have a shortcut for OneDrive, or I could go to the apps launcher, and I can just open the OneDrive app. When it comes to using your computer, by the way, there could be two different OneDrives depending on your setup. There can be a personal OneDrive and a business OneDrive. I am just using my business OneDrive just so you're aware. So in my business OneDrive, I have access to everything in here. Nobody else by default has access to it. So it's like in the past when we would have our C drive and we had the My Documents folder kind of scenario, that never got backed up. We could never share a file from our C drive. Here in OneDrive, it is cloud-based, so it is available for you to share with others, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. And you can have access to it if you have any internet connection. As long as you have access to the internet, you can access these files. I even use my SharePoint, Teams, and OneDrive files on my phone. So if I'm not sitting at my computer, I didn't, bring my laptop with me, whatever, I could just access them and use them and get to them on my phone. Just so you keep that in mind. That's why I love the cloud. But you want to kind of be thinking about OneDrive as being one, yourself. SharePoint is for sharing. Although we can share files from OneDrive, It's not always recommended. It really depends on who you're sharing it with and how many people do you need to share it with. But I'll come to that in just a second. First off, when you come into OneDrive, on the left-hand side, you have your navigation pane. Across the top, I'm right now on the home category. Across the top, I have different ways to filter what I'm currently seeing. I'm in a recent list. So these are all the recent files that I've been working on, and they can be coming from different places. They could be coming from my OneDrive, or they could be coming from a SharePoint document library, which this one is coming from the clinic SharePoint document library, which was also a team. But here's that HR policies that I was just in. So I could access those directly through OneDrive. But if I go to the left-hand side and click My Files, this is going to take me into my actual OneDrive. So this is my true OneDrive where I can see all of my different folders and all of my different files. So this is my true OneDrive. But I could set up new folders and create new files from here. So if I want to add a new folder and drag and drop files into it or create new files, at the top left, I can click Add New. Add New allows me to create a new folder, or if I want to put a new file within the current location, I could create a new file, just so you could see you could do that. But let's say that I want to access a file in a SharePoint or a Teams document library. I can do that directly here through OneDrive. So as you look at my file folders, notice this one called Accounts Payable. It has this arrow with a folder having a two-person icon. This is coming directly from Microsoft Teams, that channel called Accounts Payable. If I click on it, it automatically gives me access to all those files without having to go to the team, to the channel, to the Files tab. I could do it right from here. Great way to be able to quickly and easily have access to this. You can see I've got a smaller menu across the top. If I right click on a file, I will get a pop-up menu with the choices that I have for working with a file. Here you can see that I don't have all the same features that I would get if I were in the SharePoint document library. I am only getting access to features that I could use through OneDrive. If I want the full capabilities, setting up alerts and those kind of things, I would need to open this document library through SharePoint or Teams, and it would then give me access to those other options. But as soon as you select a file, you also have that menu going across the top. You don't always have to right click. But back to the left-hand side for a moment. If I go to the shared category on the left, this is going to give me access to shared with me or shared by me. So if I have files that are shared one way or another, I shared them or somebody else shared them with me, I can have access to those files. So how do we share a file that is in OneDrive? Well, I'm going to go back to the home category, and I'm going to say that I have a file. Well, maybe I'd be better off going to My Files. Let me go to My Files, and I'm going to go into this folder called Adam's Friendship, and I'm going to say I want to share this Excel file with other people. As soon as I hesitate on the name, I have a share icon that shows up right next to it, or in that window that you saw, where I could just simply click on this universal arrow icon for share. I could use the menu across the top as well. Lots of ways to do the same things. But basically what's going to happen is a window will pop up, and it's the same window we would get if we share it through File Explorer, or if I share a file in SharePoint or Teams document libraries. Same window. On the right hand side there is a pencil. By default, everybody with access to this file can edit. So if you need to change that, here's where you could do that. Otherwise, I could go to add a name, and I could choose the name of the person I want to share this with and type in a message and then click send, and it will send an email to them with a link to the file. Or a lot of times for me, I come down to the bottom and I want to click Link Settings. Link Settings takes you into another window with more security capabilities where I could actually say people within my organization can have access to this, or people that I choose. I also can do the settings for can they edit or is this a view only? I can put an expiration date to the file so they can only access it for the next 2 days. And I could put a password on it because if the link gets shared, if they don't have a password, they won't be able to get into it. So we do have extra security that you can go into. But I'm just going to click the back arrow to go back to the main window, and I could simply just copy a link to the file because maybe I'm going to put it out on a OneNote notebook. I want to put it in an email that I already started. We could just simply copy the link, and then wherever you put the link, they will have access to that file. They can open it. They can't get to anything else in your OneDrive or your SharePoint Document Library, wherever you're sharing it from. They only have access to that individual file. So just so you know, SharePoint, Teams, and OneDrive have that sharing capability. But this is not all we have in OneDrive. If you go to the left-hand side, I also have a favorites category because we can mark a file as a favorite file. We also have a recycle bin. When files are deleted in the recycle bin, which by default you have to confirm you want to delete it, they automatically come here for 90 days. You can restore them if you need to. Otherwise, we have categories on the left for browsing files by people. I love this feature because I work with a lot of different people and I can have quick, easy access to files that are related to those specific people. I also have meetings. So the meetings that I do through Microsoft Teams and things, I can have access to any files that are related to those meetings. So also on the left-hand side, I have this quick access category where I will have access to my other document libraries from Teams or SharePoint. Notice I have this clinic, legal documents. I had chose to pin it. It pins it to the quick access available directly here in OneDrive. So it's super easy to get to your files. So if I click legal documents, it's going to open up that document library. So I don't have to go to SharePoint or wherever to use it. So just so you know, I'm still in the online version of OneDrive. But to be honest, I never use OneDrive this way. I never come in here and do this. So I'm going to close that, and I'm actually going to go back to Microsoft Teams. That's where I use OneDrive the most. In Teams on the left-hand side, I can click OneDrive. When I click OneDrive, I will have access to the exact same thing. So I don't want to go log into my Microsoft account and then go to OneDrive. I'm going to do it from where I'm spending most of my time anyway, is in Teams, so I do it directly from here. So you can see the same categories on the left-hand side. I could go into a file, I can right-click the file, all of those same things that you saw when I was in the OneDrive online through my Microsoft account. So this, to me, is so much easier to access. But it's not the only way either. First off, I want to show you this right-click. So right-clicking, here's your choices of what you can do to manage this file. I can open it, I can share it, copy a link, I can use Copilot. I have favorite, and then I can add shortcuts. Those are what I'm seeing right now. The reason I wanted to point out that right-click is because it's going to be different when I go to File Explore. So if I go to File Explore, on the left-hand side, I clicked on my business OneDrive. So this is exactly what you were seeing when I was in the OneDrive app. Here's all those same folders. And look, here's my accounts payable. Notice it's got a different little icon to it on the folder. This is the one that's coming from Teams. If I double click, it's going to give you exactly the same things that you would see if you were in Teams. So if you're a File Explorer user, here you go. You have another way to access these files. Now I'm going to click the back arrow to go back to my document library here because as you can see, I have a lot of shortcuts to OneDrive, employment, this hardware, the general folder of the accounting department's team. I have my legal documents. All of these are accessible here. But so are all my files that are directly related to just my OneDrive. So I can use File Explorer how I normally use it, drag and drop things from one place to another, copy, cut them, all of your normal things that you do. But let's say that I go into a file, or a folder, I should say, and I right click on a file. If I right click on a file, I'm not going to get the same menu choices that I got when I was in the OneDrive app itself, just so you're aware. It's File Explorer related. So let's say that I know that I need this file. I'm going to be tonight after work. I'm not going to have internet connection because I'm going to be at my granddaughter's recital or whatever the case might be, and I don't have internet connection there. I could actually right click here in File Explorer and tell the computer to always keep on this device. It basically has access to it directly from my computer so that any changes that I make, it's temporarily saving all of that. As soon as I have an internet connection, it's going to automatically have that synced back into the OneDrive connected file. It's the same file, but it will do that action for us automatically. You don't want to do this, always keep on this device for everything in OneDrive. You'll crash. That's too much on the system. It's really, I want to have access to these files over the weekend. These folders. Don't do the whole thing, just do the ones you really need access to. Then when you're done, you'll come back and say, click always keep on this device again to turn it back off. So right now my status is this green circle with a check mark, which is letting me know that this file is available if I'm offline. If I right click the file again, I can go back in, click always keep on this device again, and it's going to change the status. It's now just a cloud-based file. So just so you know that it's a little bit different here in File Explorer. Now, this is not the only ways to access our OneDrive or our Teams or our SharePoint files. I can go directly to an application. So let's say that I want to go to Microsoft Excel. Let me get my Microsoft Excel open here. Sorry about that. I thought I had it open already, but I didn't. Let me open my Microsoft Excel. Just to show you, you have access to the exact same things. When I come into Microsoft Excel, I have access to all of my recent files, no matter where they were coming from. So this is showing me the accounts payable. This is showing me where this file's coming from. So I can always see where the files are. If I need to access something else, I could go to open on the left-hand side. I will have, here's my quick access again, just like you saw when I was in OneDrive, or I could simply go back to my OneDrive. I could go to shared with me. So let's say I want to go to my accounting department. I'm going to go to accounting department and I want to file from my accounts payable. I can go to accounts payable and have access to all those same files again. So if I want to work on this 2025 sales, I don't have to go to Teams, find the team, find the channel, go to the document library, or go to a SharePoint site, then go to the document library in that SharePoint site and get the file. We could do things directly within the application. And you can save files to your OneDrive or to your File Explorer, to your OneDrive or your SharePoint or Teams by creating a new file. So this is a new file. 2025 sales for company. I could create a brand new file and I can save this directly to Teams document libraries, SharePoint document libraries, or to my OneDrive. If I simply click save, the save icon, just so you know, I default to my OneDrive. I have mine set up to default to my OneDrive, but I can give the file a name. And I could actually choose more options. More options is going to take me into my Save As. And if I want to save this to my accounting department, I can go to my quick access, go to my accounting department, go to my accounts payable. I could choose the folder or whatever, wherever I want it to be saved, and simply click Save. By the way, I can see at the top that this particular document library has one guest to it. So I'm seeing other information related to that location so that I know other people have access to this. So if I save it in there, they're going to be able to get to this file. So we can actually see a lot when we're on these windows. It's kind of busy, but just so you know. I'm going to click Save. That file is now available here in Excel, OneDrive. It's available in Teams, and I can use it through SharePoint as well. It's crazy how they integrate together. So kind of back to what Alan and I started talking about at the beginning of our session today. We were talking about the integration that we have with our 365 apps. That's what SharePoint, Teams, document libraries, and OneDrive give us. It doesn't matter where you are at. It's a decision you need to make as to where should I save that file. If it's just for you, save it in OneDrive. But if you need to share it with other people, take advantage of the permissions already being set up in the SharePoint site or in the team in a channel. Or if you need to create a new place, you can create a new place for it. But definitely give it some consideration before you create the file, and know that if you put it in Teams or SharePoint, other people will have access to it automatically. But if you still needed it to be shared outside of that team or that channel, you could. You definitely can, because you can right click and go into that share option. All right. So I hope you picked up on a few different things that will help you to really have a better understanding as to how you could be taking advantage of using different file management tools within 365. So Alan, did we have any questions from anyone today?
Good stuff, Jolene. We have
Thanks.
just one question here, and it's from Nicole. And she states OneDrive and SharePoint folders synced in the desktop file explorer often do not sync in a timely manner. Sometimes it takes hours, days, or maybe never for files to show up in the file explorer, meaning they can only be accessed through the browser. There doesn't seem to be a
Yeah.
way to force a sync. Is there a fix for this?
Don't use sync. That's my recommendation. I personally have gone completely away from it, because now we can just do that shortcut to OneDrive and it's going to be there automatically for you. The sync capabilities have had several issues, and I hate to diss anything about Microsoft right now, but the sync option just does not work great. It's okay if it's very small things that you're syncing to, but that's not always the case. So instead of using sync, just do the shortcut to OneDrive. The shortcut to OneDrive, you'll have access to it in File Explorer, whether it's Teams or a SharePoint document library. Good question.
All right, and that was the only question we had. So just to kind of wrap up, to reiterate, we do have the Microsoft Power BI session on January 15th. If you're interested in that, go to our website. You can sign up there. We'll have some additional sessions that'll be coming out in the next few weeks, I would imagine, so you can just check back and sign up for those as well. We'd love to get your feedback on this session. As always, a survey will be going out within the next day or so. Please include your honest comments. If you have thoughts for us on upcoming sessions, we always love to see those as well. And if you'd like any more in-depth knowledge on what you heard today, or really anything else around 365, just reach out and contact us. Your client success manager is the right point of contact if you know who that is. If you don't know who that is, that's okay. You can reach us at events@sourcepass.com and we will direct it to the proper person. And I
All
think that's
right.
it, Jolynn. So I think we're wrapping this year up. I think it's been a great year. Our
It
attendance
has.
has really grown. I think people have gotten a lot out of this. I hope that's the case anyway.
Well,
And since we will not see you all here till next year, in the meantime, happy holidays,
happy
everybody, and
holidays.
happy New Year.